Hello and welcome everyone to the 6th Nivaran Summer School Lecture Series 2025, hosted in collaboration with Commonwealth Lawyers Association and Singapore International Mediation Center. It's wonderful to see participants joining from different corners of the world, and I would like to thank each and every one of you on behalf of the team Nivaran for joining us today. A very warm welcome to you all. My name is Priyanka Mathur Sardana, an advocate and mediator, Supreme Court of India, practicing for the last 2 decades in different legal fields. I thank Nivaran for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this session. Nivaran is not just a body organizing lecture series, gathering experts and thought leaders to share their thoughts and wisdom on different aspects of mediation. But I would rather define Nivaran as a team of like minded and passionate Supreme Court India mediators and lawyers who conceptualized and executed this forum to create awareness and promote mediation as a crucial tool for conflict resolution, thus helping in their own small way to make the world a better place. You have heard esteemed faculties on different topics of mediation for the last few days. And today, that is day 9, we are going to discuss a very important topic, United Nations SDGs and mediation. So, what are these SDGs? Sustainable Development Goals, and how mediation can help in achieving these 17 goals by 2030 as targeted by UN. Deliberating about this topic is our guest faculty, Mr. Rajiv Dutta, Senior Advocate and Mediator, Supreme Court of India, and I, Priyanka Mathur, is delighted to be your host today. So let me start by introducing our guest faculty, Senior Advocate Rajiv Dutta sir. Mr. Rajiv Dutta is a distinguished senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India with almost 50 years of legal experience. He's a renowned arbitrator and mediator, serving on panels of prestigious institutions like India International Arbitration Center, Singapore International Arbitration Center, SIEC, and Delhi International Arbitration Center, DIEC. Datta sir is actively involved in mediation at Supreme Court of India Mediation Center and holds key roles in including country representatives for India at the International Bar Association Mediation Committee. He also served as a Vice President of Bar Association of India and is recognized for his expertise in sports laws and international arbitration. Mr. Datta is also one of the co-founder of Nivaran. Before I hand over the floor to Mr. Datta, there's just a gentle reminder to our participants that the presentation made by our guest faculty will be for approx 30 minutes, followed by a 20 minutes question and answer session. This is an interactive session, so I request my participants, please feel free and share any questions and post it in the chat box. Now, moving ahead, I hand over the floor to our guest faculty for today's session. Rajiv Datta, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you very much. I want to, at the outset, inform all the viewers that today's topic is going to be slightly different from what we have been doing so far, in the sense that till now we are learning and from time to time the different nuances, etc., of how to conduct mediation. And mediation, you have already, all of you are aware of, is a form of ADR that is now become, I wouldn't like to use popular, but it is in fact always been there. And as you all know, those of you who are coming from India, that, it is something which dates back thousands of years that we have practiced it. And, in Ramayana, in Mahabharata, and everywhere we have found that negotiation, collaboration, and very important facets of mediation have been used very often. And in a massive country like India, that caters to world's largest population, the pendency of cases, etc., has been a very big, sort of a setback. And therefore, we now, for many years now, we have now given ourselves this ancient form of settlement of disputes, a new revival, so to say. So today's topic that you are going to share with me is mediation, actually a tool acting as a catalyst in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. This is something which, at the outset, you must also remember is going to take us on a global journey. We all know mediation in our various jurisdictions has been, as I already said, is progressing very well. And but what is mediation doing globally, all around the world, how it has been adopted, and what are the various facets and conflicts, etc., which the this has been handled by various jurisdictions in the world, is something which will fascinate you when you learn a little more about it. As I was not fully aware, I was only having some very peripheral knowledge about it. And when I was given this topic and I delved into it and did some research, I found that yes, mediation is the ultimate answer to resolving disputes in the world. So let me begin by first showing you a few slides and introduce you to the various the journey that I am going to take you through. The topic, as you have already seen, is mediation. Now, I have slightly modified the topic to mediation advancing the sustainable development goals. So, therefore, now, as I introduce yourself, all of you. Let me now, if we speak about on an international level, the world certainly becomes more complicated as more stakeholders get involved and they bring in their own interests. In such scenarios, mediation as a tool has helped historically in achieving results that were unexpected and were only in the dreams of few. Let me show you a few slides to take home further my the point that I am making. Let me show you a small clipping which will show you as to how the mediation is advancing in different parts of the world. Now, since
गॉड से
since
तोड़
you
रखा है तुमने बहुत
since you
चीजों में.
just had a flavor of what the mediation is achieving all over the world, in it is relating to the SDGs. Let me now straight away introduce you all
हम लोग आ
to
रहे हैं ना.
what are those 17 sustainable development goals which were set up by the United Nations. And if you just have a look at the slide that I am showing you, it comprehensively shows you all the 17 sustainable goals. Just have a 30 seconds look at it, and you will know as to how the United Nations has picked up each and every goal which is essential for a coexistence and peaceful development all around the world. So what are these 17 SDGs is
मुझे
something
लगती है.
uh, which is very important, but it is also important that I also bring to your notice that what are the 17 sustainable development goals actually, and how they came into existence. In 2015, all the United Nations members unanimously adopted the 17 SDGs with the motto 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The aim of these global goals is peace and prosperity for people and the planet, while tackling climate change and working to preserve oceans and forests. The SDGs highlight the connections between the environmental, social, and economic aspects of sustainable development. Sustainability is at the center of the SDGs, as the term sustainable development itself implies. These goals are ambitious, and the reports and outcomes to date indicate the challenging path. Most of it, most, if not at all, of the goals are unlikely to be met by 2030. Rising inequalities, climate change, and biodiversity loss are topics of concern threatening progress. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 to 2023 made these challenges even worse, and some regions, such as Asia, have experienced significant setbacks during that time. There are cross cutting issues and synergies between different goals. For example, for SDG 13 on climate action, the IPCC sees robust synergies with SDGs 3, health, 7, cleaning energy, 11, cities and communities, 12, responsible consumption, etc. So I will take you through each one of them very soon, but it is just to give you the details of what are these 17 goals which you must have a look at, and then we will discuss them further. The political impact is also important to be mentioned here of the SDGs has been rather limited, and SDGs have struggled to achieve transformative changes in policy and institutional structures. Also, finding also, funding remains a very critical issue for achieving the SDGs. Significant financial resources would be required worldwide. The role of private investment and shift towards sustainable financing are also essential for realizing the SDGs. Examples of progress from some countries demonstrate that achieving sustainable development through concentrated global action is possible. The global effort for the SDGs calls for prioritizing environmental sustainability, understanding the indivisible nature of goals, and seeking synergies across various sectors. Let me now very it's very important for me that what is after all we are discussing what is the role of mediation in these sustainable development goals. So the potential that mediation holds in achieving the SDGs is unimaginable. In scenarios where each stakeholder has its agenda driven by the personal or societal needs, mediation helps find the middle ground, thereby helping achieve the target of 2030. Mediation not only plays a crucial role in resolving conflicts within and across industries, it also contributes to achieving broader sustainable development objectives outlined in the United Nations SDGs, in particular those related to peace, justice, equality, and partnership building. Moreover, by promoting fair and inclusive dispute resolution process, mediation aligns Mediation aligns the environmental, social, and governance criteria, fostering a culture of social responsibility, inclusivity, and collaboration. Let me now, at this juncture, take you through very briefly many of these goals, but because of the paucity of time, I will not be able to delve very much in detail. We can do that at a later stage someday. But let me just introduce you to each of them very briefly so that you can have a good look at them, and also with the examples that I am going to give you, see as to how they have been dealt with in various jurisdictions in the world. Let me show you another slide which will which will which will now bring a little more insight into what is the first the first goal, which is no poverty. As I said, I will only deal with all of them, but in a few of them, I will give you a few examples and a little bit of a detail. Now, no poverty is a very laudable goal to achieve, and that also till 2030. We all know it is something which is very difficult, but yet we are trying to do that. Now, if you look at the slide and see what are the principal principal issues which they are trying to deal with, and various countries are today contributing to resolve poverty through these goals. The first one, as you see, is end of poverty in all forms. Very large and very largely put. But second is access to basic resources, which is very important. Social protection, equal rights to land and resources, resilience against economic and environmental shocks. So all these goals, all these issues which are being put forth as you can say as at the end of at the beginning of how to achieve them, we have found that mediation helps resolve disputes between governments and communities over the implementation of social safety nets, ensuring their fair distribution of aid. Now, this is a very important facet which mediation is providing to this goal. Second is mediation involves local stakeholders in decision making, which is very, very important. Secondly, fostering ownership of anti poverty initiatives and reducing dependency. Further, let me also lay stress on that mediation facilitates dialogues between communities, governments, and NGOs to negotiate access to microfinance, land rights, or housing. Lastly, I would say that what is helping in achieving this goal is also community based mediation, which resolves disputes over inheritance and property, preventing economic exclusion. Let me give you now an example as to how it has been achieved on the in the basis of the points that I just mentioned in Kenya. Let me give you an example. Mediation is helping local farmers retain access to arable land in Kenya, resulting in reducing poverty. This is in rural Kenya. Mediation has been pivotal in addressing land disputes between local communities and large agricultural companies directly supporting SDG 1. So therefore, it is something that is absolutely happening on the ground level. These conflicts often arise when companies acquire land for commercial farming, threatening smallholders, farmers' livelihoods. So it is a phenomena which is universal, and this is how we are trying to resolve it through mediation. The important thing to mention here is that mediators often form local NGOs or community leaders, facilitate dialogue to negotiate fair land use agreements. For example, in the Rift Valley, mediation led to contracts ensuring farmers retained portion of fertile land while receiving compensation or jobs from companies. This preserved their ability to grow crops and generate income. By resolving disputes non-violently, mediation prevents displacement and economic loss. Such agreements also foster trust, encourage investments in local communities. This approach reduces poverty by securing land access, a critical asset for rural households. Mediation's role in equitable resource distribution directly aligns with SDG 1's aim to eradicate poverty. Similar efforts have been documented in other Kenyan regions, showing scalable impact. Now, let me take you to the next SDG, which is zero hunger. Now, you can see that all these goals which have been set up by the United Nations are something which are universal and have to be addressed as there has been very slow development, and there are the world is completely divided, as you know, whether it is in continents which have improved largely, but there are other places where there is there is so much of poverty and hunger. So as far as the second goal is concerned, the first issue which comes to the mind is how to end hunger. Second is to achieve food security. Third is to improve nutrition, sustainable agriculture. Now, in this, it is very important to mention that mediation addresses disputes over land use, which I have already mentioned, and water rights, and market access, ensuring small scale farmers can produce food sustainably by facilitating agreements between farmers, governments, and agri businesses. Mediation supports equitable food distribution systems. Mediation aligns stakeholders on sustainable farming methods, reducing conflicts over environmental impacts. Mediators negotiate agreements on irrigation rights or seed access, critical for agriculture productivity. Mediation fosters public-private partnership to improve food supply chains. Now, let me give you an example as to how it has happened in the past. Mediation is helping the nomadic herders and farmers over grazing land, assuring crop production in various parts of the world. And that is how in Mali, the slide that you are seeing is of Mali, where mediation brings nomadic herders and farmers over grazing land access in Sahel region led which led to the agreements on seasonal land use, ensuring crop production and livestock survival, reducing food insecurity. Disputes over land use often disrupt farming, which is very well known, and livestock rearing, worsening food insecurity in drought-prone areas, etc. Mediators, including local chiefs and NGOs, have have facilitated dialogue to create seasonal land sharing agreements. So this is something which is been happening as far as the second goal that is set up by the United Nations. Let me take you to the third goal, which is good health and well-being. Now, all of you are fully aware that this is something which is very basic. Ensure healthy lives, to ensure healthy lives, promote well-being for all ages, access to healthcare services, etc. So therefore, mediation, how does mediation help in this? Now, according to me, mediation resolves community disputes. That is what we have learned and is happening all over the world. That which disturb or disrupt healthcare delivery, such as conflicts over clinic locations or resource allocations. The mediation aligns governments and health organizations on policies for disease prevention and healthcare equity. Mediators facilitate dialogues to ensure marginalized groups access vaccination or medical services. This is what we have seen in the COVID. It was one of the major things that happened, to which India contributed very largely, and that was towards the SDG 3. Community mediation reduces violence and disrupts the health the and helps in further ensuring that there is good health around the world. Let me now give you an example at for SDG 3 also. Mediation is helping nomadic herders and farmers over grazing land access, ensuring crop production. Now, India is a very big country where this is happening very often. And in India, mediation has advanced SDG 3, good health and well being, by resolving disputes between community leaders and health officials over mobile clinic locations in rural areas in states like Uttar Pradesh. Conflicts often arise when communities distrust or lack access to healthcare services due to logistical or cultural barriers. Mediators, including local NGOs and village elders, facilitated dialogues to address concerns such as clinic proximity and cultural sensitivity. For example, in remote districts, mediation led to agreements on clinic schedules, locations, ensuring mobile units reached undeserved populations. Now, this is a very big factor which has helped in fulfilling the goal in India. Now, let me go to the next goal: quality education. Now, we all know that it is something very basic and is required all over the world. So, therefore, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality of education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, this is a goal which was set up by the United Nations as SDG 4. Now, how mediation helps in this is is probably a little surprising, but it is going to, when I will quote the example, you will learn how mediation has helped in this. Mediation, of course, has been responsible for reducing school-based conflicts such as bullying, ragging, or teacher-student disputes through peer mediation programs. Mediation has resolved disputes over education funding or access, particularly for marginalized groups like girls or refugees. Organizations like the MBBI have integrated mediation into curriculum, teaching conflict resolutions skills to the youth. Peer mediation programs in schools reduce violence and foster inclusive learning spaces. Mediators have been responsible for negotiating agreements between governments and communities to prioritize education funding. Let me give you an example. If you look at this example, mediation has been helping address fees disputes between parents and schools in Nepal. Let me take you to the next SDG, and that is gender equality. We all know how it is a phenomena which exists all over the world, which we need to uh, have a very serious look at. So, therefore, to achieve gender equality, empower all women and girls, suitable legal frameworks, increasing the representation, etc., are some of the goals which have been set up and have been achieved. For example, mediation has included women in decision making, addressing gender-based discrimination and violence. Mediation tackles the issues like inheritance disputes or workplace discrimination, ensuring women economic and social rights. Mediators facilitate dialogues to implement policies like UN Security Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. Now, let me give you an example. As you've been seeing in the past in various SDGs. Now, let me give you an example for goal number 5. Mediation is helping resolve family disputes over inheritance rights, empowering women to own land. Now, this is in Rwanda. Mediation has significantly contributed to SDG 5, gender equality, by resolving family disputes. Cultural norms often restricted women access to land and poverty. Therefore, this became very important and led to the the helping the cultural norms which restricted many women from access to land and property. Let me give you the next SDG, which is clean water and sanitation. As I said in the beginning, I will take you through all the 17, but in detail, I will I will lay stress on a few of them so that this is due to paucity of time. But see, kindly have a look at the SDG 6, which is clean water and sanitation. Ensure access to safe drinking water, adequate sanitation for all, promote sustainable water management, support hygiene education. Let me give you a very telling example on this SDG 6, and that is mediation has helped various countries to negotiate water sharing agreements, reducing tensions and ensuring sustainable access to clean water. Now, this is something which has happened in the Nile Basin. Mediation has significantly advanced SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, by facilitating cooperation among 11 countries sharing the Nile River water: Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Sudan, Eritrea, and Egypt. Disputes over water allocation had intensified to a great extent by populations in all these countries, and therefore, by mediation, this SDG helped in resolving the dispute. Let me now take you to the next SDG, that is seventh SDG, affordable and clean energy. Access to reliable, sustainable, affordable energy. Number 1, expanded infrastructure to support economic growth, and which encourages the renewable energy. Let me give you the example over here, which is very telling, and we are all aware that how universally the solar energy has resolved so many of the shortages of energy. So mediation is helping rural communities in and solar energy firms in Kenya by resolving land disputes, provided affordable energy. Let me now take you to let me give you the example. Let me give you the example. As you can see in front of you, in Kenya, mediation has advanced SDG 7. And you can see how communities are sharing the energy which has been developed, and it was basically the disputes were where to put up these panels, etc., the land disputes which have been resolved, and the communities are all enjoying this sharing of the energy. By aligning the communities by aligning the communities and corporate interests, mediation has ensured sustainable energy infrastructure development. Let me take you to the next goal, and that is decent work and economic growth. Now, promote inclusive economic growth, decent work for all, focuses on job creation, labor rights, entrepreneurship. Let me give you the example. Mediation between between the factory workers and management, leading to better conditions and fair wages, boosting productivity and economic stability. This is a slide which is showing you which is showing you the how the factory workers and the management have joined hands, and this is happening in Vietnam. Mediation has helped SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, by resolving labor disputes in garment industry. Let me take you to the next slide. Goal 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Now, this is absolutely something very basic, as you all know. So build a resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, foster innovation, promote sustainable practices. And let me give you an example how this SDG has been helping in development, the sustainable development. So has resolved mediation has resolved conflicts between indigenous communities and mining companies over infrastructure development. In Peru, the slide that is in front of you, mediation has resolved conflicts between indigenous communities and mining companies over infrastructure development, such as Las Bambas copper mine, which is in front of you. Disputes arose over land use, environmental impacts, and community displacement, threatening project delays and social unrest. Mediators from Peru, Ombudsman Office, and local NGOs facilitated dialogue, leading to agreements in 2016 that included community compensation, environmental monitoring, and local job creation. So, therefore, you can see this is another area where SDG has resolved and helped communities in solving so much of the disputes. Now, coming to goal number 10, which is reduced inequalities. We all know how imbalanced the world is, how the societies are divided. So, therefore, this became a very important goal. Reduce income and social inequalities, emphasizes equitable policies, social inclusion, addresses disparities based on gender, race, or economic. Let me give you an example. Mediation helped indigenous groups negotiate with government agencies for equitable access to social services, reducing disparities in healthcare and education. In Brazil, as you can see, Brazil mediation has advanced SDG 10, reducing inequalities by addressing conflicts between indigenous communities and government agencies over access to social services in the Amazon, particularly in the state of Amazonas. Historically, inequalities left indigenous groups with limited access to health and education. So, therefore, this goal has been also very important and has helped various in various parts of the world. And in Brazil, as you can see, the example is right in front of you. Let me take you to the next goal, which is sustainable cities and communities. Make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Focus on affordable housing, sustainable urban planning, access to access to so therefore, let me just uh, there's a little bit of a, yes, hurdle. Now the third point that I wanted to mention was access to green and public spaces. This is very important. Now in Kenya, in Kenya, mediation has advanced SDG 11. How? Let me give you an example. Mediation has helped resolving conflicts over implementation of bus rapid trans transit. the BRT projects in Nairobi promoting sustainable cities. It might sound as if this could have been achieved without any help from outside or without mediation. But let me tell you, in Kenya, mediation has advanced SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, by resolving conflicts over the implementation of bus rapid transit, as you can see in the slide. Projects in Nairobi, disputes emerged between informal traders, residents, and Nairobi Metropolitan Services over land use and market disruptions caused by caused by the planned BRT infrastructure, which threatened livelihoods. So therefore, the by this SDG, this was resolved by mediators from NMS and local community organizations supported by UN Habitat facilitate dialogues. Mediation process resulted in agreements. So this is another example. Let me take you to the next slide. Next slide is related to goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. Now you will see basically there are three heads which are enumerated here. One is ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns, promotes resource efficiency, waste reduction, sustainable practices in business and lifestyles to minimize environmental impact. Let me give you an example how this SDG has helped. Mediation has helped facilitating agreements between coffee farmers and cooperatives to promote sustainable farming practices. In Costa Rica, mediation has advanced SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, by facilitating agreements between coffee farmers and cooperatives to promote sustainable farming practices in regions like Central Valley. Conflicts arose over market pressures and environmental concerns as farmers face challenges adopting eco-friendly methods while maintaining profitability. Mediation and mediators from Costa Rica Coffee Institute and NGOs facilitated a dialogue leading to agreements in 2018 that provided farmers with training and financial incentives for sustainable practices such as organic farming and waste production. Let me now take you to the next goal, which is climate action. You know how climate is, the world over, we are facing a lot of problems as which are related to, the changes in weather, etc., and how it is disturbing the entire world. Let me, in SDG 13, as you can see, what is pointed out, and these are a very specified, enumerated goals which have to be achieved. For example, urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts, supports climate resilience, mitigation strategies, integration of climate measures into national policies and planning. Let me give you an example. Mediation helped facilitating community agreements on mangrove restoration projects, balancing local fishing needs with climate resilience efforts. Now, this happened in Bangladesh. Mediation advanced SDG 13 by climate action by facilitating community agreements on mangrove restorations projects in Sundarbans regions. Conflicts arose between local communities reliant on mangroves for fishing and resources, and government agencies pushing conservation to combat climate change induced sea level rise. Mediators from NGOs like International Center for Climate Change and Development and local authorities facilitated dialogue in 2020, leading to agreements that balanced fishing needs and mangrove replanting enhancing. So therefore, you can see how these goals have been fulfilled. They were set up, and they are a lot of progress that has been made in the world. The next goal is goal number 14, which is life below water. So here the important points are conserve and sustainability use oceans, seas, marine resources, reduce marine pollution, ensure healthy oceans for future generations. Let me give you an example straight away. The coral reef rehabilitation and management project helps restore coral reefs in the country while improving livelihoods of local communities. It is active in 358 coastal communities across Indonesia, helping families who are highly dependent on small scale reef fishing, preserve, and coral reefs and find alternative sources of income. So, therefore, this is something which is very important that is happening under this SDG. Next SDG, which is important, is life on land. And here the points that have been mentioned, as you can see, promote sustainable use of terrestrial economic systems, ecosystems, promote sustainable land management, focus on combating deforestation, desertification, desertification, and biodiversity loss. Let me give you an example how it is being achieved. Mediation has helped integrate HIDA, traditional knowledge, with modern conservation practices, ensuring sustainable forestry and land use. Now, this is an example which you can see in the picture, is where an agreement has been achieved between HIDA lands. It is called the HIDA Title Agreement, which is signed between Canada and HIDA nation, significantly advancing the SDG 15, life on land, by recognizing Haida Aboriginal title over Haida terrestrial lands, forests, fresh waters. Let me now take you to the next SDG, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. As you all know, without peace, there is no change, there is no chance of sustainable development. And we were explained this very well in our last lecture series, because there was a topic on SDGs and Justice Kokaram had explained it beautifully. Now, mediation in this SDG resolves conflicts to prevent violence and foster reconciliation in post conflict settings. Mediation supports restorative justice, providing alternatives to adversarial legal systems. Now, there are so many examples, but in the beginning only I mentioned the Abraham Accords, which United Nations was, which the US was able to achieve. And here is the slide to show you the pictures between Israel and many of the Arab countries, which was achieved by United States, and it is famously known as the Abraham Accords, which was to foster peace through diplomatic normalization. You also are aware of something which has happened very recently, and the latest example of a peace pledge at White House in USA is the Armenia and Azerbaijan settlement peace pledge, which they have taken recently. And of course, we are all aware that recently Thailand and Cambodia entered into a skirmish over a small piece of land, which they have now decided to mediate and resolve. So there is a meeting now set up in Kuala Lumpur for that purpose. Next, and the last goal, is partnership for goals. Now, this is to strengthen global partnerships, multi stakeholders collaboration to support all SDGs, emphasize resource mobilization, technology transfer, and policy coherence. Let me show you a slide which will give you a sense of how it is being achieved. Now, this is mediation fostering international cooperation to scale solar energy, aligning with SDG 17. The International Solar Alliance, launched in 2015 by India and France, is a global partnership aimed at promoting solar energy to address climate change and energy access challenges, particularly in solar rich countries. It currently involves 120 member countries focusing on mobilizing finance, technology, and innovation for solar development. Now, having introduced you to all the SDGs and also give you examples of various jurisdictions, how they are fostering the SDGs and how they are trying to achieve it. Let me also at the end, after showing you the clear picture, mention as to what is the way forward. And according to me, having spoken at length while elaborating the benefits and advantages mediation provides, especially when we are talking about achieving SDGs through various examples, it is time that we imbibe the mantra of mitigation over litigation, or mediate instead of litigate. It is crucial for mediation community, especially the mediators and the aspiring mediators, to promote this ancient technique and urge stakeholders to prefer dialogue over lengthy courtroom disputes. In this regard, I am extremely elated that now in India, the government, along with the Honorable Supreme Court and its subordinate courts, have started promoting mediation vehemently in all walks of life. In the end, I am extremely thankful to the Honorable Supreme Court of India, Nivaran, especially Aruneshwar ji, Santanam ji, Khanna ji, and uh, uh, and others who are at the helms of affairs in mediation, giving me this opportunity. I wholeheartedly thank my audience for being such patient listeners and sparing their time on the festival of Rakhi, which I congratulate everyone. I thank you all again. I also want to point out that this is a topic which we have to imbibe in the sense that this is something which is transpiring world over. And therefore, how important is mediation today is something which you may have seen through all the slides that I have shown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an insightful and informative presentation. I am sure our participants must have realized how important is mediation and the role of mediation to address any kind of conflicts, right from environment, trade dispute, cross borders, and any other international disputes like sanitation and others. Now it's time to take up the question and answer sessions. I can see a couple of good questions in the chat box. The first question is from Sangeeta Mehrotra ma'am. How does mediation help in attaining these global goals of peace and prosperity for people and the planet? How much empathy and responsible action is important in achieving SDGs? So,
As I have explained in all the SDGs, there are two or three very important elements. As you can see, collaboration, involvement of the government and the NGOs and the mediators from various walks of life. Now, these are problems which are world over being felt. And therefore, as I said in the end, it is better that we give up the disputes and the conflicts which arise. Say for example, as I mentioned, that there are disputes which are arriving with farmers all over the place, even small disputes like putting up solar panels, which was not being resolved. So therefore, these things can be easily achieved not by litigation. They can all be achieved by mediation and following the process of mediation. And all these goals are very laudable. Yes, they are not so easy to achieve, but I think if if we have to have peace and tranquility in the world, I think it is only the process of mediation which can help. And as I said at one stage, that there can be no peace without mediation, and all mediation settlements are only bringing in peace.
thank you, sir. Another question is, what role can culturally sensitive mediation play in achieving SDGs in regions where local customs may conflict with global development targets? Over to
See,
you, sir.
I gave you an example of India, where you saw that how the medical facilities are not reaching in far out areas and backward areas. I think that is one very good example as to how it has been set up, and it is being achieved by local communities also, because without local communities help it cannot be done. And local community help you can always achieve by negotiation and by dialogue. And that is how the very purpose of the SDG, because what is the purpose of SDG? SDG purpose is, the word is sustainable and it is development. What is basic is that whatever we do, it should go further to the next generation, as and therefore we use the word sustainable. So therefore, these are the things which can be achieved by local communities getting together, sharing their views, and also being helped by governmental authorities. And if they combine their efforts together, it can be achieved.
Thank you, sir. There's another question from Rohit Priyadarshi. Are we to conclude that resolution of disputes help in achieving goals of sustainable development as set out by the United Nations?
Yes, of course, definitely. By resolving disputes, I think we are able to achieve the goals. And if the conflicts and disputes continue, then I don't think they can be resolved and they can be achieved, because as you see, they are all very laudable goals, and not so easy to achieve if it is left to just the governments and the courts. I don't think we'll be able to achieve them.
Okay, there's another question by Namrata Reddy. In sustainable cities and communities, infrastructure provided by private business tycoons is sometimes compromised, either due to malafide intentions, misuse, or vulnerability to natural disaster. Despite promises of long term resilience, what measures can we implement to ensure such infrastructure is genuinely sustainable, disaster, disaster resilient, and protected from misuse?
See, you must have seen the slide I showed you of Kenya, the BRT development in Kenya, in Nairobi. Now, see, it is a very clear example as to how the major business houses and the disputes which arose with regard to the land, the road building agencies, etc., was resolved. So therefore, it is something which can be achieved only by collaboration. It is by collaboration, and it has been achieved. The example is in front of you. It can be done without any difficulty, if you collaborate with each other, and then try and develop a system which will help the future generations.
Another question is, I have already given this. How I think I have already asked all the questions.
I think I took a little more time also. So because this is a topic which I had to take you through almost the entire length of it. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Before saying goodbye, I'd like to share with you tomorrow's, that is day 10 session details. Our guest faculty for tomorrow is Mr. Joe Tirado, an independent arbitrator, mediator, and AOR consultant, London. And our host for tomorrow's program is Mr. Devrat, an advocate on record and mediator, Supreme Court of India. And the topic for discussion will be Genesis and need for the Singapore Convention. So please join us for tomorrow in as many as numbers you can. I thank you all for joining. Thank you for being part of Nivaran's 6th Summer School Lecture Series. I'm sure you had a great time. Last but not the least, I thank my wonderful technical team, Rahul, Keshav, and Rohit. Thank you so